Democratic strategist Robert Patillo and Rick Green with the Patriot Academy. Just pat yourself on the back, Robert. This is Americans are now paying, double for gas since the president took office in January of 2021. We're still $30 trillion in debt counting. You have two major bank corporations saying we're set to have a massive recession, one even describing it in terms of a hurricane coming our way, while others argue that we are already in the storm. World Bank just warned that the global economy may be on its way to years of minimal growth and rising prices. And we have blackouts that are scheduled or could take place in California, and inflation hit 8.3% in April, remaining at a nearly 40-year high. So, Robert, congratulations, pat yourself on the back. Is it just that Democrats just aren't getting the message out there that there's lots of good things happening and we're just not seeing it?
Absolutely, and I think I've been saying this for over a year. I'm glad the administration has finally started taking my advice and listening to me. I think I said over a year ago, President Biden and his team need to be out there speaking to the American people, not simply allowing the echo chamber to exist. When we talk about the deficits, $30 trillion, we cut nearly $500 million from the deficit last year. We're on course for a $1.6 trillion deficit reduction this year. That's over $2 trillion in 2 years that President Biden did. Compare that to the Trump numbers. Look at the unemployment rate. 3.6%, and that's even with 4.5 million people leaving the workforce voluntarily in the last year. When you talk about the inflation rates, if you look at America in line with other westernized and industrial nations, we're nowhere near what other nations are experiencing when it comes to inflation. Russia's at 16.4%, Turkmenistan's at 12.5%, for example. If you look at gas prices, compare those to the rest of the industrialized world, we're paying a quarter of what they pay in Europe right now for gas because of what's going on with Russia. We pay a fifth of what they pay in Japan right now. So when we talk about what's going on in America, we have to recognize the global problems that exist, but having competent leadership has stewarded us through this and bring us out stronger on the other side. As President Bush famously said, the fundamentals of the economy are strong, and we get rid of all the fear-mongering and actually work on fixing problems in a bipartisan fashion. Guess what? We can actually get Americans back to those low gas prices and low inflation levels, but we have to have the administration out there talking to the American people and letting them know that there is a plan in place. We're working towards it, and we're not doing as bad as conservative media would have you think we're doing.
So conservative media is to blame with the messaging there, and Democrats just need to go out there and point out the good things that even though we're paying double, could be worse. Rick, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's bad for the Democrats when they have to compare us to Turkmenistan in order to have some good news. I mean, that's where the Democrats are at this point, Miranda. It could not. Well, it could. It could get worse. And the thing to remember is all of these things that are happening are because of Joe Biden's policies. This is not because of anything else going on in the world. It's the panic, not the pandemic. It's the bad policies, not the American people or not the world economy. We were leading the way in energy. We had low gas prices. We were energy independent. I mean, all the good stuff that was happening under Donald Trump was destroyed by Biden policies. It's that simple. And we can play word games and throw numbers out and compare us to countries we shouldn't even be using in an equation compared to America. And it's not gonna fool the American people. They feel it. They feel it at the pump. They feel it in their own pocketbooks. They feel it when they go to the grocery store. They know that this administration has been an abject failure. It's why he's polling, depending on who you look at, in the 20s or even the 30s. It's bad for the Democrats because of their policies. That's the reason. They're going to be held accountable in 2022. But then the Republicans have to do something about it. They have to actually have good alternatives. They can't just demean the Democrats and Joe Biden's ridiculous policies. They have to get back to the free market. They have to get back to championing the things that actually churn the economy and make it better for the American people. So the Republicans have a tough row to hoe as well because they've got to deal with the fallout. The good news is I'm glad the Democrats are not going quite so far as Jimmy Carter in the way they did it, back in the 70s. They're not talking about malaise and it's not going to get any better. I'd rather them live in fantasy land right now than actually depress the American people even further. But I'm calling on the Republicans to bring some practical, optimistic, but practical solutions to all this.
All right. Well, as we mentioned, go ahead, Robert.
Well, the only thing I would say with Rick, and I don't know why we always end up talking about Jimmy Carter when we're on together. But remember, Jimmy Carter was cleaning up the mess of Nixon and Ford, and then you had Paul Volcker who had to come in and break the back of inflation by raising interest rates. What do you see Biden doing? He's breaking the back of the Trump inflation by raising interest rates and putting together the type of fiscal policies that are needed in order to fix and ameliorate these problems. We are on the right trajectory as a nation. I know Republicans are on this blame America first kick where they say everything's terrible in America, but I believe in America. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in our people. And I believe that America is seeing us brighter days ahead of us, not the dystopian future the Republicans seem to believe in.
Well, the pendulum always swings. Go ahead.
No, I agree with the optimism, absolutely. But this is the Democrat way. They create a horrific problem, and then they claim to solve the problem, like Joe Biden claiming to create jobs. It's interesting. Government causes you to lose your job. They literally take your job away from you, and then they finally get their boot off your neck and tell you can go back to work, and somehow they created the job for you to go back to work. That's the kind of fantasy land they're living in right now.
I want to talk about the money. We were talking about that earlier with our first guest, Jerry, there. So there's still, I mean, we're paying double for gas, no matter how you look at it. We've been talking about the baby formula shortage, but also we're sending billions of dollars and have been to Ukraine. We're now spending a few more billion when it comes to South America. And to add fuel to the fire, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is calling out the January 6th panel for hiring a former network executive to produce its primetime hearing Thursday night, saying instead of focusing on $5 gas, 6,000 illegal immigrants a day, record fentanyl deaths, or the violent criminals terrorizing America, Democrats use taxpayer money on a TV producer for the primetime political infomercial from the January 6th circus. Robert, is this a wise way to spend tax dollars?
No, it's stupid. Nobody's going to watch this. The NBA playoffs are going on. The Stanley Cup playoffs are going on. Absolutely no one is going to watch this. Absolutely nobody cares. Everybody saw what happened on January 6th. People made up their minds. They made up their decisions on that. This will not move the needle in any direction. But I think that we should take Marco Rubio at his word and say, well, look, we want you to introduce an immigration plan, for example, if you have an issue with the amount of money that we're spending on South America, because that's the money that's needed to stem the crisis. When we talk about the baby formula issue, well, help us repeal that stupid USMCA that Donald Trump passed, which created the backlog where we could not get formula from other countries. We had one plant that shut down. Let's talk about breaking up some of the monopolies in the country. Marco Rubio actually wants to get things done, and by all means, let's get things done. But we saw during the confirmation hearings of Ketanji Brown Jackson, instead of talking about real issues, Republicans like to pull QAnon conspiracies and just kind of make that the Cassia Belli of the entire Republican Party. So the Democratic Party, dumb as heck for this TV production. The Republican parties have just as much egg on their face when it comes to it.
But there you heard it. Robert Patillo, a Democrat, saying nobody's going to watch this. Not wise spending. I saw Rick there smiling. He's continuing to smile. We're tight on time. Last 30 seconds to you on this.
Well, I would just say the good news is it does show the Democrats' hands. I mean, this is definitely a show trial. They want it to be a show trial. So put on the makeup, bring in the music, roll in the B-roll. It's all a show for them. It's been that way from the beginning, and it's going to be that way on Thursday night. So I guess they needed a good TV producer to produce TV. That's what this is. It's make-believe for them.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that they went to ABC, a former executive at ABC, and that it's going to be, I believe, ABC, CNN, and CBS are going to be airing this. Notice you don't hear Fox or our network looking to air this at all. So interesting, nonetheless. But still to come. I want both of you to stick around. We still have a lot more to get to, so stay right where you are. We're going to be right back. You're watching News On.